Right. So why don't you take us away talking about the accountability chart and really like why it's here?
And then it's so often when someone begins this process, they've got an org chart from what they understand it. And it's really all about titles and what people have been doing in the past. And one of the things we have to go learn how to do is rethink who owns what stuff so we can be really successful in the next 6 to 9 months. So taking it apart and really understanding what are the things where it give people focus, because this is the biggest problem, right, Christine? Like we all we have too many things to do. We don't know how to get any of them done. We're procrastinating the things we don't like to do. And this is the right structure starts to give us a way of solving these problems. So people are working on the things that they're good at, that they can really accomplish, and gives us really focus in the right places, and gets us used to the idea that status quo isn't helpful. It's actually bad, and we're gonna start digging away at that, because we can get to the right structure for our business to be successful. And we're always planning for the future. So the way we ask the question is, what's the right structure for our business the next 6 to 12 months? And sometimes during economically troubling times, we're going to ask the question a different way, like, how are we going to survive the next 3 months? But for the most part, we want to look at the future. What are the things we're trying to get accomplished? And what's going to become more important? Where we're going to need more time and attention? Where we need better expertise? Where we're going to need to up our game in some things? Or where do we have to give someone more time to go focus on the thing they have to do, so they have to delegate something else? And all of these things are types of things that the answers are going to be an issue we're going to solve. They're probably going to involve something that has to do with the accountability chart. So it's a place to capture all of those thinkings and giving us that visual picture, that visual representation of how all the responsibility flows. We call it the accountability chart. Other systems call it the responsibility chart, the ownership chart. But it's like, how does all of that, what people are really accountable for, roll up in the organization, so that if I'm in charge of this, I'm the only one in charge of this. The person above me owns that thing in the organization, but I'm the person everyone looks to say, hey, Christine, tell me about this. And you've got measurables and processes that relate to those things, right? So, and this is going to help us out, by the way, long term, because we want to be able to say, okay, when you own blueberry pie making in our business, that means you own refining the recipe, keeping track of how sweet the berries are, or how much sugar needs to be in there, and so you own the regular process of figuring out how much sugar goes into it. You own the taste testing, maybe, but being really specific about that makes it so that if I say, hey man, I'm really kind of sick of blueberry pie, could someone else take this responsibility? You can hand off someone, you know exactly what it is. How many pies did we make? How many pies got burnt? How much sugar did we use? All those measurables, those processes are all going to be connected to that thing. So it's a great way to start connecting those things. And I want to remember status quo. I had a client actually tell me this, and I use it all the time. Like, ew, gross. It cracked me up. Status quo is gross, Christine. You don't want it.
I love that. I think it's great. It's a great call out to like think about how you're transforming just an org chart into really thinking about people's responsibilities. And it's really about providing more context, like org chart is valuable to external, and internal, you need the accountability chart so that people can come in and like have the context about what's going on.
The accountability chart represents standard work in the business, right? That we divide this between rocks, which are the how you're making the business better. The standard work is what represented in role responsibility, the accountability chart, and that along with the scorecard tells you whether standard work is going the right way, and the process is how I make sure that the standard work happens the best way every time. That triangle are the things that work together, and then you've got your rocks, and it's how you're really advancing the cause, and your IDS how you're advancing the cause. So if you start to create that connection between, a lot of people that go through this and they never look at the accountability chart again, Christine, until I tell them to. It's like when there's lots of places to go look at it, and we'll try to call those out today. I'm facing this problem. Let's go look at the accountability chart, make sure we're clear.
Yeah. And let's talk about like when we're initially building it. So I think some attendees might be beyond that point. Like you already have ones set up, but even being able to like go back and think about if you did set it up this way and like what you can be rethinking, I think is really important.
All the when you hope, when you're working with a coach, it's one of the things that's really hard for coaches is to get people to start changing their mindset when they're originally setting it up. But the things you want to ask yourself is, am I thinking about people first or structure first? And you really want to start to think about structure first. You really want to begin with that question about, is this the right structure for my organization? And what does that mean? Does it mean like, is it really going to be clear? Are the right things getting the right amount of attention? Are the right things at the leadership team level that are really most urgent and important that my success is based on? And are the things below that because they're less important right now? And be able to answer the question that way. You want to keep those roles short. Someone asked me this recently, like, hey, when we try to make our roles really specific, we want people to really understand them. We end up with 20 bullet points and great big long paragraphs. And someone else on the integrated community said, that probably means a person doesn't get that role, right? They should be able to get it with your short bullet points. I mean, like getting to clarity is about both having that short version of it. And then there's plenty of place when we go to the software to put more definition in there, to link out to other documents, to give all the support you need to understand it. But that's right. If you don't know what it means to own that role responsibility, you don't GWC that role. And seats, once again, measurable process. So as you're building these things out and you come up with those short terms, you want to be able to have a good answer for the question, hey, with that role responsibility, how am I going to measure success for that? One of the things that Mark always talks about, there's at least 4 ways of putting a measurable on a role, not the seat, but on the role, and say, hey, what's the is a person doing it? That would be like a 1 or 0. That's a number. Did he actually get done? And sometimes it's things like maintain compliance with the Blueberry Institute. So I'm a compliant or not compliant, 1 or 0. That's all you're going to get. Might be quantity. So, hey, you're supposed to turn this crank 50 times a day. So that's the measurable. It's going to go along with that. That tells a person, turns that expectation into clarity, into agreement. Like, this is how many times I do that thing. So what's the way I'm going to measure success in that? Because that's the whole point of having this list is clarity, is understanding, is agreement. Next one will be quality. So how do I measure quality? Is it, am I getting an A+ every time I write the paper? Is that what the bar is? Like, how are we going to measure that? And the last one would be compliance. Am I doing it the right, best way every time? Meaning I got through all these things. I check off the box. I get to ring the bell. How many bell rings do we get? But we go through that thing. And here's the thing, Christine, we look at this all the time, right? I mean, we're constantly adjusting our accountability chart because as we learn things, we want it to be a place that keeps track of all the understanding we have for how our organization should run. And hey, that wasn't clear to somebody. Oh, let's go back to the accountability chart and figure out what we could do better to make it clearer next time. Because we assume positive intent. We've hired people that we assume positive intent around, but we have to get to clarity.
Yeah, it's a great gut check in that way, like just making sure we're all on that same page. And especially when an issue comes up, just being able to have that reference point is super important.
So the end note on the initial build is you do it the best you possibly can today, but know you're going to come back to it again and again. You're going to get better and better at figuring out what it means to be structure first, people second. You're going to struggle with that at first because you're always going, well, what could this person do? They're great, but that's not the right way to think about it. It's what's really most important thing about what are the most important things our business needs to focus on and be great at to be successful this quarter. That's a very different question. Like you can be an awesome person, but not sit in that seat. Oh, they're not going to be on the leadership team anymore. That means, okay, but if they really love the company and they love working here, it's like, you're not doing anything different. You're just not going to be at this meeting. Can you live with that? I've been on and off the leadership team how many times at 90, Christine? I don't want to count.
You can't count.
It doesn't matter because it's not important because I know that I trust that we're always making that decision for the best of the business. The best interest of the business is always what we're trying to serve here. So just don't plan on being perfect. Just make progress and keep looking at it.
Yeah. And I think that really plays into like, it will keep changing and evolving because you're going to be hiring new people. And so thinking about, hey, you're creating this job description, you probably should be creating the seat on the accountability chart too, and making sure the hiring manager like really takes the lead there is important for next steps too.
That's right. I mean, and I know I've got this in our asks for future development, because my clients like this idea too, like be able to say, oh, here's a seat we've just designed. And what if it was just one of those, you know, in the more menu, that you could actually go create a job description from that included core values descriptions, included the roles, responsibilities, included how this seat's going to be measured in these ways. What a great sort of clarity items to give to someone, like when they're coming into a role, and know like, oh, okay, that's, you know, because we all, when we read job descriptions, quite often we see what we want to see, and we will, what's really much more valuable is to get to clarity right away, so there's no one shocked. You don't want anyone being surprised when they're hired or fired as to what they're really expecting of them.
Yep. And we have on our job descriptions like roles and responsibilities of the seat. We have the core values on there. We have the measurables that we're going to be looking at. And so it's all really upfront. And then when I'm on the phone with people that we're interviewing too, maybe it's not the first one, but eventually at some point, like show them the accountability chart, like talk about how you guys are structured. I think a lot of our candidates like appreciate that level of clarity, and it lets them ask questions and figure out like how they might fit in. So I've enjoyed those conversations too, just in terms of like creating the visibility and transparency for people.
Absolutely. And I mean, like for the way we think about, like, for example, your department, you know, customer success, we aren't asking you to close a certain number of tickets per hour. A lot of places, that is exactly how they think about it. You've got to be able to transact this many tickets per hour. And it's a quantity-based way of measurement. And I'm not saying that's a horrible idea, though it feels like a really bad relationship to have with somebody. But we measure on a bunch of other things, right? I mean, it's more about the happiness of the client. We're looking at NPS score more than we're looking at the number of solved tickets. Speed to response, right? We know that's important. People don't want to have to wait for anybody. I just found out that one of our folks in the recruitment side, he hops on and clicks the button on a regular basis. Time to this, and like he impresses people by how quickly someone will respond.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like, hey man, I just go right for it. It says, hey, how long before we typically respond to a ticket? And someone will come up in like 30 seconds to go, oh, it can be as much as a minute. And people are like, whoa, how'd that happen? Holy crap.
Oh, I didn't even know we were being live tested, but we're passing, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So far.
Oh, nice. Well, let's go through a couple lessons on maintaining the accountability chart quarter to quarter.
So this is a great, yeah. So there are a set of tests we typically talk about before every quarterly. At the very least, everyone should be looking at the accountability chart every quarter. Go back to it, read through what's there, and ask yourself these questions. Is this still the right structure for my business to be successful the next 6 to 12 months? Right. And hopefully that starts to elicit a set of pictures for you. Well, 12 months from now, oh gosh, let's look at what we have in our 1-year plan. Oh, we got to have this many customers by that time. Gosh, that means we're going to have this many onboarding people. And that's the kind of like thought you want to kind of to pull out. Is it the right structure? Are there people in these seats? And just know that that's an appropriate time going into your quarterly where you're going to bring those issues up. Hey, I think we're going to need to start hiring for this position right now. Right. I don't want you thinking about that all the time, but I want you to think about it before the quarterly so we can have a plan. Are there any right people, right seat issues? RPRS is a right people, right seat. This is one of our favorite Jim Collins isms from the great holy book of all business, Good to Great. Right people do they fit our core values? Do they fit our organization like a glove? And right seat, do they really, are they awesome at the things that they're being asked to do? You know, and lastly, does everyone have enough time to do the job well? This is the hardest one, Christine, in these growing businesses is people often look at me like, oh my God, we're all so busy. And unfortunately I'm mean. So I say things like, well, busy is the new stupid. Are you able to focus on the right things? And when you're not, and you don't have enough time, how do you capture that as an issue? When you're realizing that I can't do the things I've been asked, the business wants me to do, is it an issue? Because you got to talk about it. You either got to agree that this is the things that are going to get less attention and these are going to get more attention, or agree that we've got to solve this problem. Like, hey, we can't go start this program up. This rock isn't going to get done because I need to focus on these things. It's about getting to agreement and uncovering the problems so I can get to the agreement is the most important part. And then find those things, like, what am I choosing from when I'm talking about all the things I have to go do this quarter? If I don't have enough time, it's a great time to start talking about delegation. How are we going to initiate some delegation? Like, can we do that? Is that one of the solves, or is it a new hire? Is it a new redesign of your seat? These are all things we can do.
Absolutely. And it definitely falls into the next one, because I know I've been doing a little bit of that lately. If I'm doing a task, if I'm like getting caught up in like a certain type of meeting, I'm thinking about what role is that, and really should that be a new seat or delegated to somebody else? And so it's just been really like freeing exercise, I would say, to like be proactive and, as managers out there, like have those conversations with direct reports as well.
And this is one of those things that I found, just from experience, I didn't expect this, but that when I pull people away from having titles, because titles we associate with who we are, whereas as opposed to the seat that you're in, it's kind of like, musical chairs. We know we're gonna move seats every once in a while. We're not gonna sit in the same seat forever. So it's accepted that, like, hey, I'm gonna make changes to this, and it's freeing to say, well, I'm in charge of these things. Or I'm going to, over time, you're not going to love the same thing. I'm going to go focus on this now. I know there's room for that. There's room to have that realization. And I love you, Christine. I want you to have a great, work experience here. I want you doing things you really love to do, because that's what you're going to be an A player at. That's the only way you're ever going to be an A player, if you're doing things you're good at and you love to do. So trying to keep you in that quadrant is really part of this. And quite often, I don't have time to get to all the things I want to get to. It means you're procrastinating some things, and there's a good chance you need to delegate that. There you go. Well-crafted roles are easy to delegate, my friends. So you cannot grow without delegation. There are no 5-person billion-dollar companies. So you're going to have to add people. You're going to have to add, change your structure. And the more work you put into delegation and understanding how the roles so they can be delegated. Hey, here's a role on my seat. It has these measurables. It has these processes they're in charge of. When I need to delegate that, if it's quantized nicely, I can hand it off to someone and go, this is how I did it. This is how I've been measuring it. It's now yours. I can let go of the vine. I can step away, go focus on my stuff, and now you've got it. And it's because it's easier when you do a good job on the accountability chart and all the roles and responsibilities there. And I think we're going to show people how to plan for the future a little bit with the Q2 and Q3 people.
Yeah, I added them in so we can show what we do internally there.
Nice.
Mike had a good question too about like, when do we actually go in and update the accountability chart? And I have a feeling this really just gets back to like company alignment, because I know for us internally, like if I have a new hire that's been approved, like I'm putting them on right away, just like ad hoc on my own, not during a quarterly or level 10 meeting. So it's probably a bit more frequent than just like at those set meeting times. But what do you usually recommend?
So at the least every quarter, and I send all my clients a note before the quarterly to go look through the accountability chart and their realm. So if I'm working with the leadership team, they look at the leadership team accountability chart, and they look at the seats below them, right? And then consider the 4 questions. Is this still the right structure, RPRS, and do I have everyone have enough time to do the job well? And I want them to go through that mental exercise and on that, but it's not the only time. It's really quite often you're going to recognize when people don't have enough time to do their job well, especially, when someone is screwing up in some way, like they're not delivering what they're supposed to, or they seem really tense. Your job as a leader in your organization is to be leaders building leaders. So you've got to be able to recognize that and say, hey, you and I have a conversation. I'm concerned about these things, and ask the questions. Do you have enough time to do your job well? What's going on? Because let's go solve that. If it's a person you want to have in the organization, you think they're talented, they GWC their role, maybe they don't really W it anymore. They don't want all those pieces, and you can go solve that problem. These are solvable problems in real time. You don't want to wait to their quarterly conversation to go to surprise them with, hey, I think you're really screwing up. You want to do as fast as possible. If you see a problem going on, it's time to pull out the accountability chart, look at the stuff, and have that active conversation about, hey, is this still working for you? Because some things are not working for the organization, because this is the agreements we had that you're not being able to follow up on. I'm assuming positive intent that you mean to do these things. What's getting in the way? And let's go solve this problem. So, it should be a living document on a regular basis. And just know that if you haven't reviewed it for a whole quarter, but you've got people problems, you review it more often. Think about it more often. Is this still the right structure? Because especially early on, it's going to take you a while to get good at thinking about structure first, people second. That's a new skill. That's a new skill.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all about refining and making sure you're like, it's a journey of getting somewhere. It's not like, hey, we set this up and now here's what it is.
Yeah, anything you find in there, make it, if you've got a question, all the tools are there for a reason, and you can make any of them an issue directly in the software. If hey, I need and use the same filter. If I need to solve it this quarter for this quarter to be successful, it's a short-term issue. If it can wait for the quarterly, especially if it's an RPRS issue, you don't want to bring up at the L10, make it a long-term, or put it on your private team to deal with. Don't leave it hanging out there.
Absolutely. And next I'm going to go ahead and just like jump into a quick overview of the accountability chart. So we're going to dive into 90. We're going to talk about like some of the basics. So just like adding, editing, adjusting seats super quick. And then talk about like, if you have a unique structure where you don't want to have both the visionary and the integrator at the top. We'll talk about going into maybe some more departmental views, for larger companies. And then also how we're connecting the accountability chart to measurables, and to processes for that matter. I should have added that to that slide. We'll go back.
Next time.
There we go. And then also looking at the feedback section and how we're pulling in that information to go into GWC as well.
Yeah, perfect.
So on our accountability chart here, we kind of have just the standard structure and layout, and you get a default chart when you create your account of just the top 5 seats. And you can go ahead and add as many across as you'd like to. Really, the only restriction we have is that there has to be a single or the double stacked seat at the top. So if you don't want this visionary integrator layout, all you have to do is remove this top seat. So you can go ahead and delete that. If you'd like to add it back, don't worry, there is the option to go ahead and add it back once you have removed it. But maybe you just have, a CEO up here or whatever you want to call that person, and then you can have your leadership team below. So completely flexible in that way. When you're ready to go in and actually start adding new seats, you're just using the plus sign and that adds to the level below. So if I want to come in here and add, let's add partnerships.
Oh, thanks.
There we go. We'll create the seat, gets added to the right, and then I can rearrange and move it over however I want to here.
Way important. So you want to move it to the left.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And then if we want to go ahead and edit, so I just created that seat and I didn't add any roles and responsibilities. If I want to go ahead and add those in, I can do that here. So maybe this person needs to LMA. Maybe they're going to maintain, HubSpot or whatever it is. So you can go ahead and add in those responsibilities. And then this is getting back to what Jim mentioned earlier, where we're keeping the responsibilities really tight, like something that's just like quick and easy to like really understand and condense. And then you can go into the description, you can write out anything you want to, put bullet points, put all the information that you want to there. And
in the description, it could be as long as you want. And so when we're designing seats, I'm always asking the question, any ideas on measurables for this? And we just capture notes there. Are there any processes this person's going to own because they own this? And I'm trying to capture those in there. It doesn't actually create the linkage, but it gives you a place to start putting notes in right away as you're thinking about it, because you really should. It's the right time. You want to think about what does success look like, and that's really how you turn those expectations agreements. The short phrases are great, but you have to give them meaning. And the meaning really comes from the measurables and the processes.
Absolutely. So if you want to document those in this way, you can, and then we'll go to the scorecard and show you how to like actually link those together so that you can have.
Well, I want to push out the attachment section there too, Christine. Yeah. Quite a few people, if you've got an external, job description management system or something like that. You know, that there are, especially highly regulated businesses will have things like that. It's a great place to attach something like that, a PDF or whatever it is. So it's super clear what that looks like. And then, you know, and because that'd be one of those things you review when you review the accountability chart. Is it still accurate at that level? And then know that that would be something you could go do something about with making an issue out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I just used this yesterday because I was helping interview for somebody in a different department and I hadn't seen the job description yet. So before the call, I was like, man, I should go get that. And I just came to the accountability chart. I looked at the seat and it was just attached to the seat. And I was like, wow, that was so easy. I didn't have to ask anybody. Like, I just kind of assumed and thought it might be there, and it was. And
it was there.
Yeah, made the process really easy, and I could go over the roles and responsibilities before that interview.
GSSD, my friends, I love it.
Yeah, so it was a really cool experience. And for those seats that you are looking to hire, like, go ahead and put them on the chart. It's great to create the visibility because then other people in the organization who are looking at the accountability chart can be thinking about, is there somebody I know in my network that might be a fit here? And you can put in what quarter you might be looking to hire them. So what we've done is just have Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 all listed here as users. So you can put in like when you think you might be hiring this specific position. So in order to get them in this drop-down list of users, all you do is go to the directory and you just put them into the directory here. So add your person, put the first name. This is what I did, Q1, you know, Q2, and then you can go ahead and throw them on the AC.
Yeah, and I've got some clients that actually put years, so they're planning out further ahead.
Nice.
But the other thing about that, folks, is you really shouldn't step away from your accountability chart without showing who's doing those things now. So let's go back to it, and you'll see that in her classic Christine fashion, she's got a number of roles here. And what we typically say is when we're ready to start, when we know we have a plan for making that hire, that next hire to take that off of Christine's plate, we would add Q3, Q4 to that role. So that, like, hey, I know Christine, you're in that role now, but let's, we think by Q3 we should be able to replace you in that. But I know who to go through to for those things right now.
Absolutely. Somebody's still owning it. Somebody is still like active.
Someone's still owning it. Someone's still doing. If it's important, it's still happening. Anyway, that's what's really always happening, folks. You've got two people in the organization, and the two of them have divided the entire planet of things that have to get done. You add that third person, you all should be delegating some things there, but you get to the clarity of who owns which piece only by making sure you've got an accountability chart that says who owns what. And you still got the entire world. So, if it's just a couple people, someone owns all of sales and marketing for all time, eventually you're going to have someone that is optimizing your earned SEO. We've got people doing things that we didn't even have a definition for a couple of years ago, but you get that over time. If you earn the right to have someone who's optimizing things I don't understand.
And if it's helpful to go a layer beyond that and just like understanding a person's capacity, if you wanted to put in like percentage of time here in the seat, we've done this before. I've even gone to the level of actually putting it into the specific roles that I'm doing, so I can see like percentage of time that I'm in certain areas. So if that level of detail is helpful for you guys internally as you're thinking about like where I'm delegating roles or what seats are coming available, would definitely encourage that like thought process.
I make all of my clients do it. If anyone's in multiple seats, or if there's any, we get to any conversation about, oh, I don't think this person is doing enough of this. It's like, let's get to agreement. Let's get to it, make it really, really clear. And sometimes percentages are good. Sometimes it's about hours. Like, can we commit a certain number of hours per week to go do this? Because it's really about getting that to agreement. Because now, wow, I had no idea you were spending that much time on that. It's quite often the response, right, Christine? Like, oh my goodness, maybe we should reprioritize finding someone else to do some of that. And that is often, and it's just that kind of that clarity, because we all get caught up in the moment of right now. It's like saying, oh yeah, it's okay, I'll just do that. Christine's a great one for this. Yeah, I just got that. I'm just going to solve that problem. And then we have to, and that's Christine's coach. I got to say, hey, Christine, is it really good for you to go do that? Or is it better for you to put that on somebody who's going to go learn to do that and really own it going forward? So we're solving a problem. That's the leaders building leaders. I didn't see she's on here, but one of my integrators recently told me a story about how she had to, oh yeah, I'm a little tired because I had to go in at 4 in the morning because someone lost the key and we had a client that wanted to get in. And I was like, huh, and you went in, huh? He said, yeah. I said, never again.
Yeah.
I can't help you if you're going to keep doing that. You can't be the den mother. You're in charge. So let somebody else suck that up, and they should have come over to your house and got it off your front porch. That would have been better, right?
Absolutely.
Let somebody else own that.
When you're thinking about, people in different seats too, another thing you can consider is like how we have this laid out where I'm owning the role, but we are hiring for it. When you get to lower levels in the chart, you might have, hey, there's multiple people that have these same roles and responsibilities. So you can put them all in the same seat here, and go ahead and just build it out. So you don't have to change a role across 10 different seats when it's everybody's doing sales or admin or whatever it is in that specific job.
Yeah, I mean, typically, and it's understood that those people, I mean, people say, oh, but everyone's supposed to, no, you can't have two people, accountable for the same thing. You're going to have some structure to that. People are, it's territorial, or it's just, but it is the same role. There's no point in having them down there separately unless there's specific things that one person does for another. Then it's worth separating apart.
Exactly. Like for us, we can't have just one person owning the live chat. Like there's multiple people that are doing this role. Like they're sharing roles and responsibilities. But they do have a level of ownership within their measurables. And speaking of measurables, let's go ahead and go to the scorecard so we can show the ownership level here. So we talked about how you can see those on the accountability chart if you just put in measurables and then type out what you're looking to track there. Once you actually create the measurable, you can put an owner on it, and then you can also decide what seat is responsible for it. So in a position like this one, where I'm in multiple seats on the accountability chart, I can own this measurable and then choose which seat it actually belongs to, just so you're getting really specific into the role that you're playing that's leading to the population of this measurable. Let's see. And if we go ahead and select an owner here where they're just in a single seat. Oh, nobody's in seats. Oh, well. If they're just in one seat, it'll auto-populate, but yeah. I need to fill out my accountability chart more.
It's all right. This is the demo. It's all good, folks. It changes every day because you're not the only one in here right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final thing I'll point out is how the accountability chart also flows into the feedback tool. And so when you're in here, I'll go ahead and edit this conversation. It does pull in the seat, and you can fill out GWC for that individual seat as well, and go ahead and write some comments down for it. So any of the seats that have roles and responsibilities written out, they'll go ahead and they'll show up there as well. Nice. All right, let's go
pretty spiffy.
Yeah, I think we covered it all. And then I want to talk about a couple features that we're thinking about on the product side. They're not in development right now, so I can't really give you a date. But for anybody that's interested in providing feedback or being more engaged in like this product development process with us, we do have a new option over here on the left-hand side where you can provide our team feedback, and we'll actually contact you and like have a discovery call and figure out how you want to use a specific feature. So we've got a great product team getting built out right now. So if you're interested in participating in that process, we're here. Go ahead and type in here. That actually goes to our Slack channel, and we all talk about everything that we see. So it's not just going into a blank void. We see and read and respond to those daily.
Oh, it's pretty fantastic. Yeah.
But let's see, future of accountability chart. We are looking to set up multiple versions. So you don't have just a single one. Maybe you want to build out a 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road. And then even within that versioning, like maybe I want to have a sandbox area. So like I have my own version where I don't necessarily, I'm just playing around, I'm tweaking things, I'm brainstorming, and I don't need to share that with everybody. It's just for me or maybe a couple people.
Yeah. And this is one of those areas that, I know we've been asking for from the beginning of the last pandemic, because I say the last pandemic, the last stressor on businesses, because quite often, folks, the reality is we end up having to make, we think about things like, oh, we're going to be adding people, we're going to be expanding, but quite often things happen beyond our control, and we have to actually contract. And one of the mental exercises we like to go through in scenario planning is this notion of, okay, what if sales were 75% of what they are today? What would our accountability chart need to look like? What if our sales went to half of what they are today? What would our accountability chart have to look like for us to be profitable? And that's the kind of thing you'll want to start doing in your sandbox. You don't want that to be out there in public consumption, right? But you certainly would want to understand what roles will be available and think about how you would staff that. And I have all of my clients, Christine, especially now when it's easy to poach people, to come up with their cannot lose list. It's, once again, not a public thing. You don't let everyone else know about it, but you should be darn certain as who you don't want to lose in your business, who's critical to your success, and have some things you do for them to make sure that they feel, go that extra mile for them to make sure that they're not thinking about leaving and they're not unhappy. So maybe they get a monthly review as opposed to a quarterly review, or there's special things you want to, like, hey man, I'm really about your advancement, I want to help you. So all those things are things we recognize there's a need for that. There's a desire to be able to, in the tool, have some planning and scenario planning in there. Know that that's a way we think about it, and we're here for you. Well, supporting that concept.
Absolutely. And then following that, like being able to archive things and go back to past versions, even in like that, hey, maybe you're doing some scenario planning here and then realize, hey, you don't need that version anymore. Being able to just archive that, go back to it if you need it, is going to be really valuable, just so you can, with those multiple versions, be able to control what you're seeing and editing. Oh no.
When you have to write the book, that's the other reason.
All right. And then having more unique seats. So the owner's box, super important, being able to like see that at the very top of the chart, and then being able to have those admin seats where you can see more of like that horizontal line across, no matter who is in that position, would be great.
Yeah, and just know that too, one of the things that I found, and my clients have used this, they've actually used Chatbox to figure out, like, hey, I've got this really weirdness to my structure, I'd really like to have it captured here. And like I do have one client that's got, they've actually used our VI structure to have the owner's box, a visionary, and integrated. So you can come up with a very different chain if you want to, and the folks in the chat box can help you figure that out.
Yeah.
Or get you a resource that can help you figure it, because it's a pretty adaptable tool for these things. But I think there's more and more specific scenarios that we'll be supporting as time goes on.
Absolutely. All right. And issues prep. I feel like I have not seen any come through the chat except for Michael's when you update the accountability chart, which we kind of covered earlier. And then I know Gary did have a question around when we're going to activate smart measurables. So
can we divulge that yet?
I mean, I think we're ready. I know the question came up because we were just looking at it in here. And so we're using it internally, and we can go ahead and turn it on in your account if you're interested in it. I think we are getting ready for our full scale release of that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, certainly, folks, one of the things you've got to know is, and we've, as the software gets more sophisticated, we take a much more thoughtful approach to, what things can we roll out in that are easy for everyone to understand, and what things are going to need support. So need documentation and need to have everybody on the chat box be able to know how to support people on it. So that's sometimes what slows people down. But if you're willing to live on the wild side and try beta features, we'd love to have you in the beta program, because the software does get better every 2 weeks. It really, really does. And there are often features that stay in beta for a long time. So you get to have special magical stuff that people don't see yet. But that's one we've had for quite a while. I know that.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, Gary, I've got you. I'll make sure it's turned on. I'll send the team a Slack right now. So we're good there. And then, yeah, just great to hear from Laura, Joe, that, a lot of the features that are coming soon are going to be really valuable to them. So If you
Yeah.
are interested in participating in any of like the product development around those things, when we start doing any user research or like actually developing those features, again, like feel free to write that feature request in here. Like would love to see an owner's box, would love for accountability chart versioning, and then just click contact me for future research, and the team will reach out when that thing is being developed.
Yeah, and one thing, like, we have a lot of clients that have like boards of directors and things like that. So and the accountability chart doesn't necessarily always support those things as fluidly as we'd like, but to make that a department somewhere in the software does work. So we have that a lot. I've got a couple of clients, as I was grousing about earlier, that have gone through transactions and had data rooms that were based in 90, that they could invite people into their 90 base data room. That's how we could raise our money, by the way. And you can create a team, just on the fly, create a team and add people to it just in that team that have access to certain measurables, access to certain processes, can manage the meetings for that team and things like that. But Heard, the accountability chart, it ends up being a little bit wonky because you create an offshoot somewhere that doesn't actually show up in the accountability, doesn't show up the accountability chart quite the right way. But I have people that have abandoned the standard VNI, Christine, and just so they can do all that wacky stuff and have board of directors, have all the people up there, and then someone that's on the board, the CEO sits on the board of directors, and now the operators below that, and it's just not pretty. It doesn't look like what Gino intended, but that's okay.
Yeah.
There is no EOS heaven. You got to run your business.
Yeah, and like you said, we can walk anybody through that in the chat area, or feel free to request a call in there, and our team can help set up any specific version or structure that you want to, and brainstorm how to get that done.
Right.
Let's see. Michelle, is it possible to get a copy of this webinar? Yep, absolutely. We're going to be emailing out a copy, most likely tomorrow, I want to say. So we just got to get the recording over to marketing, and then they'll shoot it out to the whole list. So please, share it with the rest of your team.
And it shows up on our YouTube channel, right?
Yes, yeah. So go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube too. You'll probably get it there faster than the email.
Yeah, but just know that there's lots of back episodes of this and other materials that Christine's put together. The marketing team will do cut downs too, so they'll answer specific questions or certain sections in there. So it's a good resource to kind of have in your back pocket for doing stuff.
Yeah. We did just get another question about MFA. So when it was first rolled out, it was prompted every time. Now it doesn't unless you log out. That is true. It's prompted when you log out, and then also after every 30 days. So we just increased the amount of sessions that we were allowing people to stay logged in for if you do have MFA turned on. And then we are exploring other authenticator apps. If you have one in particular that you'd like to use, feel free to share it with us. And that's also great feedback to go ahead and put in our provide us feedback area. If you are looking to use MFA or an authenticator app instead of the traditional text MFA.
Yeah, for those of you that not tracking, MFA is multi-factor authentication. So when you're logging in, having something just send you another message for another path to authenticate who you are. There's apps that support that. You put a code in here over here. You're probably familiar with that from various, because almost everyone's using that these days. And it's a great way to just make sure only the right people are getting into this, especially if you've got people that have access to very sensitive information. We think it's a great thing. And it's getting easier and easier. It used to be the things that were just available to large companies, but now people of all sizes can have single sign-on and MFA turned on. So we're down. So, but if you're already using something like that, we definitely want to hear about what you're using, and because we'd love to have you be able to apply all of your, security controls in our environment as well. So we're fully supportive.
100%. All right, let's see. I think the only other question we didn't answer, I know at the very beginning, somebody wrote in just asking about our license agreement with EOS 1 coming out. So I just wanted to make sure we address that. And we will be having a series of webinars, and it's not necessarily going to be a webinar like this. It's just going to be a large call. We want to see everyone. Like, we want to answer any questions and be as transparent as we can about the shift and changes that are coming up with EOS Worldwide and our license agreement. And so in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and post a link to registering for either one of those Zoom calls. Feel free to just attend one, because we're really going to be covering the same content in both. But that is to register for a Q&A session with us about really what's happening next. EOS Worldwide has discontinued our license agreement. And so the software is staying the same, the trademark term, or it's not saying the same exactly. We're updating the terms in your account. Really, the main page that's going to have a layout change is the VTO becoming Vision. But ultimately, we're here for you guys. We're not going anywhere. We're here to continue supporting you with great software and service. So just want everyone to be assured of that. And we are going to be emailing out all of our users tomorrow, the owners and admins and accounts, so you guys can prep however you'd like to communicate that to the rest of your company, if you want to do that before we email all of our users the following week.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate change, but things happen, things change. I think for the most part, we've been living. We're not concerned about how easy it'll be for you to use the software without the trademark terms. As a client pointed out to me recently, Christine, I think I know what a weekly meeting is, and that's pretty clear versus giving it a name. So, but we'll be in a better position to answer all your questions at the future things. But it's not a big change for us. We are staying here. We are huge at this point. 180,000 people in the software. 77,000 companies. Huge, big money on the balance sheet. I mean, it's been a great couple of years for us. We've loved being part of the EOS community. EOS feels like they're going a different direction. We hug them, we love them. We hope that everything goes great for them. But we've got our own path, and we've got Christine. So,
yeah, we're just super excited about the new 90. There's going to be a ton of awesome features that are coming out that we've been waiting to give you guys. So ultimately, I'm extremely excited. And I know, Jessica, you asked when these changes go into effect. We don't have the exact answer on date for you right now, but that first week of August during those sessions, be sure to attend, or at least register, because then we can follow up with you afterwards. But we'll have more details on the timeline.
Yeah, and we're gonna make it really clear for what we think your paths going forward are, and how to adjust accordingly. And give you time to go do those things before you'll be locked in one scenario or the other. But I think you're going to be so amazed by how many features you didn't know were in here. That if you're a regular listener to Christine's podcast, you know all about all the features that are out there. But for a lot of people, they don't know of all the stuff that's been hidden behind the magic doors, and all this is just be coming at you fast and hard. And we're excited about what it's going to mean for our clients.
So happy to answer any other questions on that now. The answer might be to attend the Q&A sessions the first week of August. But if anybody does have anything, I know when I talk to people, I'm just trying to be, as transparent as possible and let people know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people would love to hear. I mean, you'll get communication over the next couple of days, as Christine said, that makes breaks it down. It's not a giant lift one way or the other, but you'll have chances to make decisions going forward. And we don't foresee it feeling like a disruption to our clients one way or the other. Because let's be clear, Christine, we were not always EOS licensed software.
Yeah, when I first joined the team, we weren't even 90. We were a different name. But so it's been a journey. We got our license agreement. It was a great couple years. And like you said, just hug them on the way out and appreciate everything EOS has done with us.
Absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So, well, great. And then when we do with this again in the future, Christine will probably have more to say about that.
Yeah, definitely. So you guys have that link to register for the Q&A sessions. If you are an owner or admin in your account or on the leadership team, you will be getting an email tomorrow. And then the email to the rest of our user base will go out next week. So be
So
on
I
the
was
lookout for that.
kidding about Christine's podcast. She doesn't really have, not yet. She doesn't have a podcast yet.
I know, maybe I should start one. Maybe like if you tune in, maybe I should have a podcast.
I would.
But no
Okay, I was
podcast
getting enough
yet.
Christine time. I told you. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody. No further questions, but we're here for you. We'll answer questions as as they come. Remember, everyone's behind the chat box there, so we're always here.
Yeah, here for you guys. Thanks for attending. And we will see you soon. See ya.